you're recording. And Daniel, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to make you host. And if there was a way to give Daniel a round of applause, let's do it. But I don't think we could do it on Zoom. So Daniel, I'm going to make you host and it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. And while you are uh, doing that setup with the host there, let me just say a special thank you to the Rotaract Club for having a session like this and seeing the importance of shining some attention on this very important topic. Um, Again, from that introduction there, that's just to give you a little brief background of some of my experiences. And it's a pleasure to share this time with you all to discuss this topic. All right. And so the goal, the objective of this afternoon session, as you would have seen um, as advertised, is we want to bring some awareness to mental health, especially as it pertains to in the school setting as well as in the work setting. So I know that we'll have a mixture of persons in attendance, and there may be one or two persons joining in um, as we continue. But I would like to encourage you to participate in the session. So when I say that, um, I'm going to have certain segments here where I'd like to get, your thoughts, hear your opinions on certain things. And that will kind of help us get a better understanding of this topic of mental health. So let me just go ahead and share the screen. All right. So here we have it, right? Our topic for today, mental health awareness at school and at work. You'll see the color green. Green is a designated color for World Mental Health Day. And that green ribbon is also used to designate World Mental Health Day, mental health awareness, and so on. Right. So what we're going to be doing today, we want to, we've already gotten the introductions out of the way. But I want to know who's in the room, right? So we do have a chat. So let me just see. Kevin, you could probably help me monitor and let me know. But I think there's a raise hand function, right? So if you are still in school, can you please raise your hands? Let me see how many students we are. So this is like full-time students. Maybe some persons are working and studying, but let's see if we have any full-time students in the room. Full-time students, any full-time students? Okay then. Raise your hand then if you are in the workplace. All right. Seeing one hand up, two hands up, three hands up. Okay. All right. And so I'm guessing that the others may be somewhere in between or a mixture of both. All right. So, okay, that gives me an idea in terms of who we have in the room. Thank you so much for participating. We're doing great so far. We want to, by the end of this session, have a better understanding of what mental health is. In any conversation and anything that you're discussing or learning about, it's important to get a definition, a working definition of what mental health is. We want to look also at what's the importance of mental health. So why care about mental health? Why should we even bother? What's the importance? What's the use of that? And then we want to wrap up at the end with some practical coping strategies, with some practical tips in terms of some things that we could do to care for our mental health, both for those that are at school, and as well as for those that are at work. And then I want to end off with linking you to some additional resources should you need further support. So I want to begin a conversation this afternoon by asking the question, what word comes to mind when you hear mental health? Think about it, right? Let's scan your mind, scan your memory. What word for you comes to mind when you hear that term mental health? So I am just going to share a link. I'm going to share a link in the chat. And what this link is going to do is it's going to take you to another platform. It's called Slido. And it's going to allow you to give your answer anonymously. So we won't know, okay, Justin said this, or if I'm saying it correctly, uh, um, Atish said this, or Jared said so, Stephanie said this. We want to get an idea of what words comes to mind when we hear that term mental health. So go ahead, if you would be so kind, click on that link in the chat and enter what word or what phrase comes to mind when you hear that term mental health. Right, so I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up the chat. You'll see a link there. And then I'd like you to enter in a word that comes to your mind when you hear that term mental health. Okay. All right. So let me just see if I can share my screen. Okay. So can you all see the screen? All right, let's confirm that you're seeing the screen. So we should be seeing all the different words that persons are contributing that comes to mind. All right, let's see what we got. We got anxiety. Someone said anxiety. Someone said your well-being. Stigma. Someone said stigma. Positivity was another one. Mental environment. Interesting one. Mental environment. Peace. Depression. Right? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So you have about 7 responses so far. Storms. That's an interesting one. Storms. Right? So that's by looking here in terms of what we have so far. We see a variety of answers. We see some answers along the lines of peace and well-being and positivity. I would say that's about what, three out of 3, 6, 9, about a third of the responses, well-being, positivity, peace. Then some others there seems to be anxiety, stress, depression, stigma, storms. That's a very interesting image there, storms. And then mental environment, that's sort of like a neutral ground. So mental health, we think in mental environment, and then we see in a mixture here. There's that positive element, and then there's that sort of that negative element, if I should say that, if I should use that too. Thank you all so much for giving your contributions. Okay, excellent. So let me also bring back up the slides here. So we see a variety of responses: anxiety, mental environment, etc. Now, let's look at that definition. Let's look at when it comes to mental health. We see that it's, first of all, it's 2 words, mental and health. So I like to break things down. So let's break this term down into the constituent parts. First, we have health. And according to the World Health Organization, health is defined as a state, know that term, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So it's a state, well-being, right, and different elements: physical, mental, and social. And it's not just the absence of a disease, right? So health is that state of well-being, and it's holistic. Holistic meaning it doesn't cover just one part, but the different layers associated with us as human beings. All right, let's see what else we could discover. Mental, the word mental. What does mental refer to? Mental, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is anything relating to the mind and emotions as opposed to physical activity, right? So thinking thoughts, we're thinking about emotions and not so much behavior, physical activity or on the outward sense, right? So that's what the term mental means. And then we saw this term at the beginning there called wellness. Now, what is that? The Global Wellness Institute defines wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. And note that term, active pursuit. And that's ponder in your mind, what is the opposite of active pursuit? Active pursuit is that's more of a verb, that's more of an action, right? And so wellness is an active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to that state of holistic health. Okay, let's look at what mental health is defined as. Again, according to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well, work well, and contribute to their community. So it's mental health refers to that state of mental well-being. So someone put in the chat, in the Wordle, the mental environment. A certain state of your mental environment. It's one where it enables persons, both persons in school and at work, to cope with the stresses of life. How many persons think that life has some stresses in it, or stressors? It will be the term. There are definitely things that cause us stress from time to time. It's an inevitable part of life. In other words, it's something that we all face in some form or another, and to varying degrees. Some things may be a little like a bounce your toe level type of stress, a stub your toe type of stress, and other types of stresses would be all the way intense to some things that threaten our lives, right? And everything in between. So mental health, having good mental health enables us to cope with these stressors, realize our abilities. So we as human beings, we are full of potential, and we can do many, many things. We're very resilient. We're very able to accomplish whatever persons put their minds to. And so having good mental health helps to promote our ability to become all that we can become, right? So that's another piece to it. Then learning well, working well, and contributing to our community, right? So persons that have positive or good mental health, we tend towards these things here. Put another way, and I was going to skim through this one. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. In other words, it affects all of our lives, the different parts, and it affects us, or it influences us at various stages of development, from childhood all the way to adulthood. Yeah. So we may have heard about the term mental illness. What is that? Let's look at what mental illness is. Mental illnesses are conditions that affect a person's thinking, feeling, mood, or behavior in a way that impairs their ability to relate to others and function each day. So we may have had the experience of gotten physically ill, having the flu or having a fever, and it would have inhibited us from showing up to work, from showing up to school, because of that state of illness. It impaired our ability to function. And just like we have certain physical illnesses, when it comes to mental illnesses, these things also affect our ability to function and our moods and our behaviors, right? Poor mental health and mental illness are not the same thing, right? What does that mean? A person can experience poor mental health and not be diagnosed with a mental illness. Likewise, a person can be diagnosed with a mental illness, can experience periods of good physical, mental, and social well-being. So I'm trying to get at that distinction there. There's a distinction, there's a difference between poor mental health and mental illness. So, we like to use the terms that come on social media a lot and quite often, words like toxic and words like narcissist and depression and things like that. Now, there's a difference between someone who is diagnosed with clinical depression and having a depressed mood. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that there are certain things about our mood and about our mental state that's normal. It's normal to feel down and depressed when things and when reality and when our situations are not the best. A good example is in a situation or a scenario where we may have lost a loved one or a loved one is ill. It's a normal reaction to feel a little down, to have a depressed mood in such situations. But that is different from having a diagnosis of a mental illness, or such as depression. There's certain criteria that needs to be diagnosed by different mental health professionals before you say, you have depression. So I want us to be mindful of that distinction, right? What causes mental illness? Well, there's no single cause for mental illness. A number of factors can contribute to that risk. These include adverse childhood experiences, such as trauma or a history of abuse, such as child abuse, sexual assault, witnessing violence, etc. Experiences related to ongoing or chronic medical conditions, such as a traumatic brain injury, cancer, or diabetes. Biological factors or chemical imbalances in the brain. So as we would know, we have different organs in our bodies, such as our hearts and our stomach, pancreas or lungs, etc. And our brains is also an organ, and they can, in certain instances where we have a lack or an imbalance of certain biochemicals, certain hormones, and certain secretions in our brains, these can lead to some mental illnesses. The use of alcohol or drugs. Certain drugs and certain chemicals that we put into our bodies can affect our biology. It can affect our production of certain chemicals that we need for functioning. And this can impair and bring about certain mental illnesses, right? Having feelings of loneliness or isolation, right? So some mental illness can be caused by extended or chronic situational scenarios, that chronic long-term isolation, because we need certain things to be healthy. If we lack those things, it can develop into a mental illness. And this information is from the Center of Disease Control, right? Now, the World Health Organization and different bodies give us some statistics when it comes to mental health and mental well-being. Now, largely in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago, we generally lack statistics, but it's a work in progress, and from time to time we get information. But worldwide, in the US, there's more than one in five adults live with a mental illness. Over 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18, either currently or at some point during their life, have had a seriously debilitating mental illness, right? So there are more statistics available. There are things that are reported and things that are not reported. And even in our local context, I'm assuming that everyone on the call is either from Trinidad and Tobago or from the Caribbean. I can't see you all, but you all can see me. And it's quite likely that we experience a similar ratio. We can speculate in terms that we don't have that hard data, right? But mental illnesses and things that affect our mental health, they are common. They're common because of the situation. They're common because of various factors. As we've seen how there are various causes of mental illness, so too, even in our context, it could be either biologically, through our genetics, or through situations that we face with. These things can contribute to mental illness and things that affect our mood, etc. But we are noting again, as mentioned, there's a difference between poor mental health and a diagnosed mental illness, right? And so what we want to focus on in this session is that area of poor mental health. And what are some of the things that we could do to address that? But right before we go there, I have that slide. Some of you may have glanced at it. I'd like you to, in the chat, answer the question, why is mental health important? In your own words. Actually, so you could type in the chat, and if we have a brave person that would like to unmute their mic and give a contribution, that's fine as well. I'd like you to select the raise your hand icon, and let me know if anyone would like to offer a guess or offer their opinion in terms of why mental health is important. So you may either type in the chat or unmute your mic and share your 2 cents. Why is mental health important? Why should persons care? Why should we look after our mental health? Anyone? Who's it going to be? All right. So Teja says, mental health affects us in all aspects of our life. Okay. So it's something that affects not just one part of our life, as we've seen, but all areas, all elements. Okay. So it's important because it's pervasive. It influences all aspects of our lives. Thank you so much, Teja. Anyone else? I'll take one more. Either through the chat or either if you'd like to unmute your mic. All right, so Justin says, stable emotional states aids in the effective functioning in everyday living, including our interaction with others. All right, a good, strong paragraph there, Justin. Stable emotional states aids in effective functioning in everyday living, including our interaction with others. Yes, and so we're seeing that commonality in those two responses there. It influences our functioning in all aspects of our lives, as well as our interactions with others. All right, excellent. So let's get some more data here. Why is mental health important? It helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. So you're right on the ball. It helps determine how we handle the stressors that we face, how we relate to others, and how we make our choices. Navigating life's challenges successfully, building relationships, and overcoming obstacles. So from a certain lens, we could see that life has many challenges. Life has various stressors. We could also see from a different perspective that it's filled with beautiful and amazing things. Life is a mixed bag, right? There are those challenges involved at every level, from kindergarten, from before that, from birth all the way to our old age. There are different stressors or there are different challenges that we face. And so having good mental health helps us to face these successfully, as well as in our interaction with others. It's also a basic human right, and it's crucial to personal, community, and socio-economic development. What does that mean? It means that if the individuals in a family have good mental health, that positively impacts that family environment. And if that family, right, so we move from that individual, spreading out from the individual to the family, those closest to the individual. And then that individual is at school, and they are at work, and they are in a community. And then the community makes up that country, and then that country is part of a region, and the region is a part of the world, etc. By fostering our own mental health, we have that ripple effect across our communities and across society, and it impacts even socio-economic development. So when employees have good and positive mental health, they are more productive. We are more focused at the workplace. We're able to navigate our stress as well and function effectively, bringing about socio-economic development. Similarly to at school, we would be less stressed about the different homework or about the different challenges in the social world at school, and we're able to develop and function well at school. What will happen though if we neglect our mental health? If we neglect mental health issues, and this is for both those of us that are in school as well as at work. Now, mentally, when it comes to the mind, if we neglect our mental health, we don't take those actions to pursue. If you recall from the beginning, that that wellness is a state, it's actions, habits, choices, lifestyles that promote that state of well-being, right? If we don't engage in those activities, when we do have problems, mental health problems, they can be exacerbated. What does that mean? It means that it can develop, it could fester, it could develop even further, right? And grow even bigger. General unhappiness, we're generally not satisfied with our life situations and state, right? We may become we're more likely to experience victimization or trauma. And there's a big term there, there's different types, right? But if we neglect our mental health, it can lead to being victimized by other parties, by other individuals in the environment, right? Whether it be those that exhibit behaviors. We know in the news recently, things like bullies, things like persons who are affecting us in a negative way, who are keen on engaging in behaviors that impact us negatively. And if we don't have that state, that ego integrity, that ego strength, speaking to that positive mental health, we may be more likely to experience these scenarios, right? In the body, weakened immune system. So when the body is stressed, we have a stress response. Stress hormones are secreted, and our body uses up energy in fighting against different pathogens, different things that come up against us. But if we are in a state of chronic stress, in a state of mental illness, our immune system is weakened, and we may find ourselves being more susceptible to illnesses. We may experience chronic physical conditions, we may form unhealthy habits, self-harm, and even suicide. And these are situations that can happen when we experience thoughts and experience different emotions that feel overwhelming, right? Continuing in the realm of relationships, increased conflict with family members. So if mommy is stressed out at work and she comes home and she's irritated and she doesn't engage in practices that relieve that stress, she may snap at her daughter or at her son. Or daddy might be a little more irritable at work. Or John, hopefully we don't have a John here, but I'm just using that word, John, who, no, not a parent, right? At work, might snap or might become more aggravated when something minor occurs, right? Because it's sort of a building up and not being released, right? In terms of our stressors. So we have increased conflicts with family members, social isolation. Some of us, when we feel stressed and when we feel as though we are affected, we may tend to withdraw. And this can kind of reduce the instances where we could get help, where we can get assistance in navigating through our challenges. We need a certain level of socialization to feel healthy. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. Some of us need more socialization and social interactions to feel healthy. So for my introverts in the room, we are okay with a little interaction here and there. More extroverted persons would require more conversation and more time with others to feel okay, right? So if we neglect our mental health in the long run, we may find ourselves withdrawing more and more from even those that we like, even those that we like to spend time, right? This in turn could lead to poor performance at both school and at work, right? We may withdraw from obligations personally, academically, or professionally. Poor academic outcomes, unemployment, legal troubles, or incarceration. So when persons aren't able or aren't well-versed in managing their emotions, in managing their stressors, they may get into conflicts outside of the home with their peers. You may find them trying to deal with situations in a manner that's against the law. So fights, the use of weapons and different things to try and resolve conflict or engage in conflict, not really resolve it. And this could lead to things like incarceration. There are persons within the prison system who are on probation. As mentioned, I would have had experiences there. And the root cause of the challenges could be traced back to poor mental health, poor skills, poor coping skills, poor conflict resolution skills and scenarios, right? And so if we don't attend to our mental health, these are some of the things that it can lead to down the road. Financial problems, right? Poverty and homelessness, substance misuse, etc. These are the long-term consequences of neglected mental health. So that's the issues. These are some of the issues. What should we do about it? What could we do about it? And you see me, I have at the bottom here, I have at the individual level, school level, the workplace, family, the community, the society. Because as I touched on a couple of slides back, we as individual members of our society, of our school, of our workplace, of our community, we have a ripple effect wherever we are. And so there are things that we could do to attend to our own self, the things that we have control over. And that affects those around us, those that we are in relationship with, the school, the workplace, and by effect, the society at large. But let's bring it back down to the individual level. What do we do? If you're in the room and you're wondering, okay, I think that I'm struggling. I think that I need to attend more to my mental health. What are some of the things that I could do about that? Well, I want to introduce us to an interesting term here, something that we're kind of familiar with. Mental hygiene, right? Mental hygiene. Now, hygiene refers to practices that help to produce and promote health. And at the top right corner there, you'll see we have a young lady that's brushing her teeth. And this mental hygiene, there's another term that rhymes with it. It's called dental hygiene, right? So I want us to think back to this morning. Hopefully, we have brushed our teeth, right? Sometime for the day already, right? We have this term dental hygiene that the dentists and our medical personnel have promoted over the years. And we kind of understand there are certain things we need to do on a daily basis that promote dental hygiene. So these may include brushing our teeth, flossing, brushing our teeth once or twice or 3 times per day after meals, right? Again, the use of mouthwash, going for your checkups, going for cleanings, etc. And especially these are for those who have access to dental care, right? For speaking from my experience, there are some of us that may not have even had access to dental care for a while, but we have heard, or you may have heard from family members, from on the television, here's what, there are certain things you need to do to maintain your dental hygiene, right? And these are the small things that are within our control that we can do for ourselves. I want to submit to us that there are also things that we can do to take care of our mental hygiene. And these include, right, the daily activities that support and maintain our mental health. Public health guidelines tell us that we need to do small tasks daily to maintain our physical and dental hygiene, right? Showering, brushing our teeth. We want to now extend that same concept to mental health. So just like going to the gym and building up our strength, mental hygiene is about building up that mental muscle. It's an important way to maintain good mental health and build the resilience we need to help face challenges in the future. So to the bottom there, you'll see another image of a journal, and a pencil. There's also a little candle there. There's lavender flowers, other items there, right? And this could be a small practical way that we can begin to incorporate into maintaining our mental hygiene, right? Journaling is one of those examples. And so let's look at some other things, right? Self-monitoring. Look at this image here. Just reflect on where you are at right now or recently. We may have seen this image on our devices, even the device that you're using to look at this call, whether your laptop or your phone. Sometimes our energy levels are high, sometimes it's low. See, just like it is for our phones and our devices, we also, in our energy levels, it may be depleted. And what I want to encourage us as part of our mental hygiene routine is to begin to self-monitor. begin to check in with your energy levels day to day. Just like you would attend to your phone, you look at your phone, you look at the battery level and say, okay, mine actually right now, mine is literally at 53%. So it's okay for now. It's somewhere in the middle there, maybe at that orange mark. But when my phone reaches down to a lower percentage, I say, oh, here's what. In a little while, it's going to run out and it's not going to be able to function effectively. So what I need to do is recharge it. I need to get it plugged in and charge my phone. Similarly, I'd like us to begin that intentional practice of monitoring, self-monitoring. What's your energy level like? What is your mental level like, right? So that's one thing. Begin to check in with yourself. These are some other things. There's things like deep breathing, journaling, guided meditation, gratitude exercises, self-compassion, mindfulness, and spending time in nature. That's a few things that we can do to incorporate into our mental hygiene. Okay. So keep that image in your mind. It's like you're brushing your teeth. There are things that you need to do to promote your mental hygiene. Then we want to look at something called self-care, right? And this is any deliberate activity we engage in to take care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. There are different types, and I was gonna browse this through. Because we are multifaceted, there are different types to us. Yeah, we need to take care of ourselves at these different areas, right? So we have emotional self-care, practical self-care, physical self-care, mental self-care, social self-care, spiritual self-care. So if you'd like, you can take a picture of this. All right. These are the different types of self-care. In our emotional lives, these are activities that help us connect, process, reflect on a full range of emotions. Examples may include writing in a journal, creating art, playing music, etc., seeing a therapist. Practical self-care. These are tasks that we complete in order to fulfill core aspects of our life in order to prevent future stressful situations. So this may look like creating a budget, taking professional developmental classes if we had work, if we had school, taking lessons, extra lessons, organizing our closet so we know where our school uniform is, we know where our work clothes are at on a day-to-day basis, reducing the stress, planning, scheduling things, right? Physical self-care, activities we do to improve our well-being and physical health. And examples include taking a walk on evenings, sleeping 8 hours a day, staying hydrated, etc. I know we kind of shrug at that 8 hours a day, but that's generally about the recommended mark. And I know some of us may fluctuate at different amounts of time, but you want to aim for that, right? You have mental self-care, right? Activities that stimulate our minds, reading a book, solving a puzzle, etc. Social self-care, as I touched on, right? Things that for our relationships. Spiritual self-care, activities that nurture our spirit, allow us to think bigger than ourselves. So note, it does not have to be religious, although for some it is. So this may look like meditation, yoga, going to a place of worship, being in nature, dedicating time to self-reflection, etc. Right? So that the point here is you want to incorporate a self-care plan and look at some of these things and make sure that you're attending to the different parts of your well-being. Other examples of self-care techniques, right? Deep breathing exercises. Box breathing is a very simple and but effective exercise that you can practice. Progressive muscle relaxation is also a very evidence-based technique that you can do. And so I'd encourage you to take notes or to look into these practices after, right? Healthy and a balanced diet, right? So a diet affects our mental well-being, right? Our sugar levels, etc. And if we have other existing medical conditions, this can impact our mental health. It's all connected. And so that's why we want to take that holistic approach, and a healthy and balanced diet is part of that. Sleep, as mentioned, journaling, grounding exercises, like tuning into our senses, practicing gratitude, as studies have shown that this helps to maintain that state of mental well-being. It helps us to focus on those positive things, right? Hobbies and interests, right? So some of us, we don't carve out the time for ourselves. Some of us, our personalities are more tilted towards the working type of routine. But it's important to take that time, carve out that time for hobbies and interests, especially for the working persons who are deep in their careers, right? You may have started off engaging in time for yourself, but as things get busier, it's harder to carve out that time for yourself, right? So that's something to look at. Looking for the positives, optimistic thinking, the fancy term or the technical term, cognitive restructuring. Social activities, spending time in nature, spiritual practices, right? Time management and organization, utilizing school guidance counselors, access to EAP services for those that are at work, speaking with a mental health professional. All right. So I want to also draw back reference to that idea of dental hygiene and bring a parallel to mental hygiene, right? So think back to your dental health in terms of your teeth. There are some things, yes, that we can do on our own. Yeah, we can brush our teeth, we can floss, etc. However, there are certain dental conditions that we may not be able to deal with at home or on our own. For example, if we get a cavity, if we have an impacted wisdom tooth, for those who have experienced that, you know how painful that can be. For those who may need to extract, for those who may need a deep cleaning, right? There's a type of cleaning that a toothbrush can't get into, and we need to go to the dentist, and they would do a scraping and things like that, right? And depending on the severity of the condition, we may need to go beyond our general dental hygiene and visit a dentist or a dental assistant, right? Similarly, when it comes to our mental health, the mental hygiene helps for certain things, but there are certain conditions where we may require to visit a professional to have a specific and dedicated time focused on helping you to navigate that scenario, whether it's a diagnosed mental illness, whether it is a certain pattern of behavior that you need assistance with. And these trained mental health professionals, similarly to the dentists who are trained for more complicated scenarios with dental health, when it comes to mental health, we can benefit from a visit to a mental health professional to help us there, right? And so for those instances where we need to get some access to mental health professionals, I want to bring us to drawing to a close, but I want to link us to some available resources if we feel that need for further support. So here in Fernando-Tobago, there is a website called findcareTT.com. You can take a picture of this as well, right? And on there is listed a range of resources that you can access. We have the Ministry of Health and the Mental Health Unit, the telephone number listed here that we could call. This is from a Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. There may be times when we experience thoughts of suicide, when we need that direct assistance. We have a national suicide prevention hotline, and you can access that at 800-HOPE. Also another one, Lifeline, 800-5588 and 866-5433. Then we have 220-3636. In case of emergencies, if you feel that we need that emergency response, if they're in a state where there's an attempt, a suicidal attempt, right? By a loved one or by yourself, you could call the emergency numbers at 990-811 or 999. Sometimes, just like when we are unwell physically, but not medically, we may need to get that more direct care by professionals, be in an environment where persons who care for us and have the skill set to assist us when needed, they are present to assist us, right? Similarly, when it comes to our mental health and well-being, we do have the St. Anne's Psychiatric Hospital that we can access care for any range of mental health conditions, right? We also have, for those who would like to go the route of getting private sessions and more direct sessions in a paid way, you can look at the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists, their listing, right? So you just Google TTAP, and there'll be a listing of qualified mental health professionals, and you'll see their specialties and the different things that they're trained in that you can access and find further information with. And of course, if you would like to get to look at the private sessions, I also have private clients from time to time, right? And so these are some of the resources when it comes beyond our mental hygiene. So to recap, right? There are things that the maintaining our mental health is important with coping with life stressors. There are things that we can do to maintain good mental hygiene. So self-care, self-monitoring, right? Maintaining our mental hygiene, right? Those different practices. And for the times when we need or we feel the need for further assistance, there are those resources that you and I can reach out to. Listen, I, as a counseling psychologist, I myself have used therapy. I myself have reached out to mental health services, and I know that it can be beneficial. I'm also someone that practices different things for mental hygiene. So I like to journal. I like to spend some time for myself, right? And carving out that time. All of us may feel the need for that assistance from time to time. I want you all to know that there is no shame in taking those steps to look after your mental well-being. Someone mentioned in the word at the beginning, the word stigma. And thankfully, I think that in Trinidad and Tobago and in the world, as with mental health awareness, the purpose of this talk and of this session is to bring more awareness. As persons are more educated and as we learn more about the importance of mental health, we can begin to recognize that here's what, there's no shame in looking after our mental well-being. If that involves our self-care practices, or if it involves reaching out to mental health professionals, right? So again, these are some things that I wanted to bring to our attention. Just in closing, I'm saying we have about 5 more minutes, and Kevin can direct me here in terms of if we have the time. But I would like to just open the floor for if we may have any questions, or if we have any major takeaways. And then that will bring us to the end of this session. So maybe there was something on your mind that we didn't touch on that you wanted to hear about. You could type your question in the chat there, or you can share your question through the same link that I shared earlier. All right, but preferably you can type it in the chat if you'd like. All right, so while you're thinking of any questions or any comments, I want to also encourage you to think about your major takeaway. For those who don't have a question, think about what was the one thing that you're taking away, or the one thing that stood out to you from the session today, right? I'm just going to check back the other. Okay, I'm seeing a hand raised here. Justin, are we able to have Justin?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think the major takeaway here is where you compared mental health to dental hygiene.
Mental
As it
hygiene.
relates, yes, as it relates to the word stigma, I believe
Mm.
this session here really combats that you could say perception of mental health. Because just like how we have to brush our teeth, we have to wash our clothes at the end of the week, and all of that, mental health is can be done in a similar fashion, and it's part of how we take care of ourselves. And I believe what you're doing here really kind of, as I say, combats that perception of mental health.
Yeah, thank you for that takeaway, Justin. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Any other takeaways? And again, I know as we're focusing on both contexts, both for in the school environment as well as in the workplace, both of these things would be key in any context, right? Both the things that we have our control over and the things that we may want to accessing further care for, right? Whether with professionals, whether it be your EAP services, whether it be the mental health services available through the government, in the public, or at school, right? So if no further questions, I would just like to thank you all for your time and your attention. I want to say again, I was going to put back up the slide really quickly. Right. Thank you all for your time and for your attention. I want to wish you all the best as you continue to care for your mental health. You being present today does show your interest in the topic. And I want to encourage you, if you are someone that is in need of that further support, don't hesitate to reach out. From all of us from time to time, we may feel that need, and there is no shame in reaching out should we need that extra care and assistance, right? So with that, thank you all again. And I want to hand over to Kivan and team.
Right. So before Kivan does the final close off, Daniel, I would like to say thank you very much for your time and your presentation today. I see it's being recorded, so once you send that to, you can probably send that to either me or Kivan, and we can share it with the members of myself, our club, and Fernando-South. We have Fernando-South on the line as well, so I'd like to now just ask Jared to bring greetings on behalf of Fernando-South too.
Okay, so hi everyone, you all hear me? So I'd like to once again thanks for the invite from Tinja as well as the other members. Was supposed to be what was supposed to join on, but thank you again for inviting me. Thoroughly enjoying it. I would definitely want to have a copy of it. So once it's finished, once they get the recording, just send it in our code. So once again, thanks again for the advice and looking forward to having more projects with you all.
All right. So yeah, once I get the recording, I'll forward it. And again, Daniel, thank you so much. And I'll pass the Kivan to close off. And I just want to thank Kivan as well for organizing everything, liaising with Daniel, doing all the little graphics and all that. Daniel, I hope when we share this around, we may get more attention for maybe a later version of version 2 of this. So, I'll let you know from now, just in case we reach out to you next 6 months for part 2, if you'd be willing.
Sure, no problem. We see how things go.
All right. So yes, so thank you so much, and I'll just pass over to Kivan now to end off everything.
Yeah, sure. So Daniel, I just want to express my thanks and gratitude for preparing this presentation, especially with mental health. Now, I could talk from my own experience how important sleep is, how important journaling is, how important breathing is. I'm even surprised you brought up breathing inside of there. And I just want to encourage everybody to go through that slide with the list of items or exercises that could be beneficial. And I guess I'm more or less, that's a testimonial on my part as well. I didn't realize your field psychologists, you'll do that, actually recommend stuff. I always thought psychologists were just somebody to talk to and they just give you pills. But again, that's the stigma that I thought that was associated with mental health, but it's not, right? Once again, thank you very much. And your slides and preparations was very helpful. Once the recording is done, I will upload it and I'll share it with everybody. You could just probably hand over host to me while I'm not able to do it, but if you could just hand it over.
Let me see if I could do that one time.
right? And also thanks to Tasia, Stephanie, Justin, Judy, Aditi, Daniel, yourself for attending today and for
We had a
making the
few
time.
people, a few other people, but they got like, I guess they got bumped off on the way because when I joined, it had like 12 people on, 12 to 15 on somewhere there. So
Mhm.
people probably just got bumped off anyway. So yes, so thanks to everyone for attending.